Welcome to another edition of the Heavy Duty Parts Report. I'm your host, Jamie Irvin, and today we are live. As always, with our live broadcast, we really want you to participate. We want you to get involved. So if you'd like to comment or ask a question, please do so. We'll bring you into the broadcast just like this, and we look forward to your participation. Now, what are we going to talk about today? Well, just before we get into that, I wanted to ask you if you knew that we also air a podcast every week, and we just celebrated 100 episodes. So if you didn't have a chance to check out our podcast yet, go over to heavydutypartsreport.com and check out the podcast there. You can subscribe on any podcast player you like. You can watch or listen right on the website, or you can even go over to our YouTube channel because we also broadcast a weekly video of the podcast episode. So we've got you covered. You can find the podcast any which way that you like. Now, today we're going to talk about a subject that we have really talked to about in the past. It's an important subject. It's something that really resonates with our trucking industry, and that is the heavy duty solution to the technician shortage. I don't think anybody would argue that there is a technician shortage, but I think that people do have varying opinions about how big of a shortage it is and what the solution is. And I wanted to bring someone on who would be able to give us some real insight. So let me introduce you to our guest today. Now, our guest today, they have an online training program. It's been used by 250,000 students and employees every year across 4,300 career tech programs and 2,700 businesses. It's called SB2, and SB2's training is industry specific. It covers topics like safety, environmental, ethics, soft skills, human resources, and they also offer recruiting services. And our guest today is Kyle Holt, the president and co-founder of SP2. So Kyle's waiting backstage patiently. Let's get him in on the broadcast. Kyle, welcome to the Heavy Duty Parts Report. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Jamie, and congratulations on 100 podcasts. You've really made the Heavy Duty Parts Report an integral part of the industry, and I'm glad to be here today.
Well, thank you very much. You know, one of the things I wanted to talk to you about is there's growing distrust of the media, right? And regardless of what side of the issue you find yourself on, I do hear in the industry people say, yeah, there's a shortage, or yeah, there's problems finding enough technicians. But sometimes I do see a big variance in skepticism about how real some of the headlines are. So let me read you some of the headlines that I pulled recently. Severe skilled technician shortage triggering higher shop labor rates. Another one, Tech Force finds technician shortage continues to worsen. Diesel mechanics in high demand across range of industries. So those are just like three of the ones I pulled up from recent posts. Are these headlines just grabbing attention, or do they speak to a real problem?
Well, first of all, every headline is supposed to grab attention, but this is a real problem. I mean, this is a problem that isn't going away anytime soon either. You know, one of those mentioned the Tech Force Foundation, saying that the shortage is continuing to worsen. I know a lot of the people at Tech Force Foundation, and the research that they do is fantastic, and it is absolutely showing that it's only getting worse. The ASE Education Foundation, they've done a ton of research on this, and they're finding the same thing. It's only getting worse. The Collision Repair Education Foundation, the National Automotive Service Task Force, these are industry nonprofits that are out there looking to how do we benefit not just the industry today, but the next generation of technicians. They're all finding the same thing. And just anecdotally, when you talk to somebody at a shop, you hear the same problems. I can't find the technicians I need. I'm struggling to get vehicles out the door because I don't have the people in place to work on it.
Right. And I mean, at the Heavy Duty Parts Report, we're always trying to look at things from the perspective of the parts game. And, you know, if there's a repair technician shortage, if there's a driver shortage, that impacts parts. And of course, parts technicians are getting harder and harder to come by as well. So there's a shortage there. So, okay, we've established that, these headlines are representing something that is real.
Yes.
You mentioned that in your experience, and before we came on live, you were talking about how you spent 20 years building SP2, and I mean, you've got a really good grasp on this. What's accelerating the problem? Because that seems to be the kind of the dark cloud here, is that we have a problem, but it seems to be getting worse and getting bigger every day. So what's driving that acceleration?
So, Jamie, we could probably spend the entire 2 hours, 3 hours talking about the various things that are contributing to this problem. But I think that a lot of this, there are a lot of small issues, but then they snowball. So let's just cover a couple of them. First of all, this problem does not just affect the heavy duty diesel industry. It's affecting the entire transportation industry. It's affecting all of the trades. It doesn't matter, welding, cosmetology, construction. All of the trades have a shortage of qualified technicians or skilled workers who are entering their industry. I've got a good friend of mine, George Ahrens. He works for the ASE Education Foundation. He likes to say that our industry is full of gray hairs and no hairs, and that we've got to do something to get young people interested in a career path. But once they're in a career tech program and they're learning, we're seeing that they graduate, and the ASE Education Foundation found that 42% of graduates leave the industry entirely within the first 2 years of graduation. And they're going to other industries like retail, they're going to food service, they're entering the military, my buddy is making 50 cents more per hour working for a moving company. Well, I'm out. And they never come back to the industry. We've got low starting pay, the high cost of tools, especially early on when you have no tools and you're having to buy those tools, the lack of mentoring, just finding a work environment that encourages them to grow. All of these things snowball, and we end up eating our young. We end up losing those young people who have put time, effort, and money into learning a trade, and then all of a sudden, they're stocking the shelves at Walmart, and that's terrible for the future of our industry.
Yeah, it's like almost a death by 1,000 hits, really. We
Yeah.
had we had Aaron Picozzi, president of American Diesel Training Center, on the show a few weeks ago, and one of the things that he mentioned, it was also this issue around retention. And when he was
Yes.
talking about tools, it made me immediately think of my wife's cousin. Her boyfriend went through the training process to become an automotive technician, and
Hmm.
when he announced to the family that that's what he wanted to do, the response was, "Oh no, don't go into automotive or heavy duty. The tools are so expensive. Like, be a plumber or an electrician. At least the tools are cheaper." So that barrier is real.
It is. It is, and we expect any technician coming into a shop to bring their own tools with them. I will say this: in automotive service and collision repair, the expectation is a lot higher that you have a full tool set, and that the shops are not going to provide as many tools as what we're often seeing from the trucking industry, from the diesel industry. There does seem to be this movement within diesel for the company to provide more of the tools to young technicians. That is making it easier for them to enter the industry and stay there, but still, that's not pervasive across the entire across all of the companies out there.
Yeah. So anybody who's listening who's running a repair shop, let's talk about economic impact.
Hmm.
What is the economic impact of failing to attract enough people to fill the positions that are open?
So I think that opportunity cost is going to vary wildly across the different types of businesses that would be out there. But everybody can probably go in and look at their income statements and know what the cost of an empty bay is. When I can't when I can't put a vehicle up and start working on it, you can begin to calculate what that opportunity cost is. But there are costs of turnover. When you don't keep, if you bring in a technician and you don't keep that technician long, you're going to end up, and these are numbers that I've been given from across various industry sources, but anywhere from $9,000 to $35,000 is what I've been hearing as the cost of from the moment that you lose a technician to find, recruit, hire, train that next technician to get in and get them up to speed. Those costs add up. And then one other thing that really ought to be considered is not just the costs of that, but what's the value of bringing on a new technician? And Jamie, I'm going to advocate strongly that businesses do a better job of bringing on entry-level technicians. Part of that is because I work with the career tech schools. You mentioned it earlier. We work with 4,300 career tech programs across the country. We have over 250,000 students that are using our training every single year. A young entry-level technician isn't necessarily what every shop out there wants to bring on. Of course, if you can, if there was a magic pile of hundreds of thousands of experienced technicians, everybody would go recruit from them. But there aren't experienced technicians just walking around going, I wonder where I'm going to find my next job. Those guys have another job lined up before they quit the one that they're at. But a new entry-level technician can, in year one, they should bring in $125,000 in gross revenue. And these are industry averages that we've been able to find. $125,000 in gross revenue. In year two, that should jump to $200,000, and in year three, it should be at $300,000. Now, that's $625,000 in revenue over the first 3 years having an entry-level technician come on board. But you've got to keep them those 3 years. And all you have to do is take your gross profit percentage, and a lot of shops average somewhere in that 45, 46% range. 46% gross profit on $625,000. That's $287,000 in gross profit in the first 3 years. And then they're up to speed and they're productive and they're proficient and they're truly making your shop money. But anybody who says that an entry-level technician is costing them money and not making them money probably isn't doing the math.
Yeah. As you were describing kind of that economic impact, it made me think of the contracting business I started back in 2009. I sold it in 2016. And the people who bought it, they retained me as a consultant for a couple of years. And my wife, who was working in the business and helped me build it, became the chief operating officer for the company. So I have intimate knowledge of where they went, and they had really good growth. But the trend I'm seeing with that company is the same trend I see in a lot of repair shops and parts stores. There's almost like a insulation to this problem in a temporary way. And what I mean by that is I've watched the company that I started. I've watched all those young people I trained and brought into the business. They're all getting older now.
Yeah.
And there's not enough young people being recruited into that company to replace them as they age out. And I think that's a real problem in heavy duty, because I think that there's some companies who are like, we know it's a problem. We know we need to find more people, but we've got these people with like 40 years of experience working for us right now, and we're doing okay today. But that's so short-sighted, because those people start to retire, and that's going to accelerate over the next 9 years as baby boomers fully exit the workforce. And all of a sudden, you're going to go from being able to handle the workload you've built up, the customers you've worked 25 years trying to acquire, and then you won't be able to service them. And that could happen. That could happen like that. Yeah. And all of a sudden, you're going to be in a big jam. So if you don't start recruiting young people and getting them into the system, there's literally catastrophe just maybe a couple years away. And that's a big problem. And I see that everywhere, because I work with companies, all across Canada and the US.
So fleets have been experiencing not just a shortage, but a crisis in terms of having enough drivers. And I mean, the price we're seeing the impact now in consumer prices from just not having enough truck drivers. And this is also going to impact technicians. And I think, I don't know this for sure, and I don't have any data to back this up. All I've got is anecdotal data, but I think we're going to see the number of technicians for compared to 2019. I think that if when we start seeing how many technicians actually are still in the industry in 2021, 2022, I think we're going to see a huge drop from basically because of COVID. I think that we've had this extra hit to us because an older technician who's going, I've got, I could retire now, but I really kind of want to work, 2 or 3 more years. COVID hit, and a lot of technicians went, look, I know that we're supposed to still be open. We're still, we're considered a necessary industry, but I'm not going to put my life at risk. I'm retiring now rather than waiting 2 years. I'm retiring now rather than waiting 4 years. And a lot of these technicians, they've been making good money. They've saved up. They've got their retirement ahead of them, and they're going, look, I'm not going to put my life at risk for this industry. And so they left in 2020. Now, what's that mean for 2021, 2022? I don't know. But I do think that we're going to see kind of an exacerbated increase in the number of technicians who left the industry. We're also already seeing that in terms of career tech instructors. We've got a lot of gray hairs and no hairs in career tech as career tech instructors, and we haven't done a good job of growing the next generation of teachers for career tech schools. And I use that term, the gray hairs, no hairs term, with a lot of love, because these are my friends, right? These are the instructors that I want to support, and they'll be the first to tell you as well. Look, it's true. I don't know who's going to replace me in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years when I'm ready to retire. And they're probably not. They probably don't care in 10 years at this point. But 2 years, you better start caring. And schools are feeling the impact because instructors went, I'm out. And now all of a sudden, we're not going to have enough instructors to train the next generation of technicians. We don't have enough students coming into the programs to fill these gaps. We're not retaining the students that do graduate from the program properly. And we've got an increase, I think, in the number of technicians that are retiring early. All of this is snowballing, and I expect the numbers that the ASE Education Foundation, Tech Force Foundation, all of the groups out there, I expect that the numbers are going to only be worse when the new research comes out.
Yeah, and I think you're right about that group that left because of COVID, but I also think that there's like a second wave of people who are going to leave right after that. And those people are the ones who are like, whoa, stock market crash, numbers came down. I'm going to wait for maybe 1 or 2 more years for recovery, and then I'm going to pull the pin. And that will create this second wave of people who are like, oh, I was going to retire in 2021, but now I'm going to wait till 2023, just make sure my 401k is topped up, make sure that we're good there. All my investments have recovered from that drop in the economy. And then I'm going to pull the pin. I know my dad fits into that category. My stepdad, like he's just like, yeah, I would just wait another year or 2 and then I'm gone. So there very well could be this first wave and the numbers will reflect that, and then there could be a second wave like right after it, which will make it worse. So okay, we've talked a lot about the problem.
Right.
But if people are reading across the bottom, it says the heavy duty solution
Yes.
for the technician shortage. And the reason I asked you on the show is when we were talking, you said something that grabbed my attention about what you think heavy duty should do. It's I think it's the solution. It's not necessarily the nicest solution because it does involve other industries but hey, at the end of the day, we're all competing. So lay out the strategy that you think would be best for heavy duty specifically.
So I think that there are several different steps that need to be taken here, but I've stood up and I've talked to the automotive service industry about this exact thing. I've talked to the collision repair industry about this exact thing. And I've told them to actually start worrying about the heavy duty industry coming after their students, not just focusing on diesel students, but also focusing on auto service and collision repair students. And it's not just that I think it will happen. I'm seeing it happen right now. There are fleets that work with SP2 and that work with other companies that I know of who have stopped being so narrow focused on just the students that are exiting diesel programs, but they're going, look, I don't care if you come out of a diesel program, a collision program, an auto service program. I don't care if you come out of an HVAC program or a welding program. I want somebody who's got the right soft skills, who's willing, ready, and able to work, and understands that they're going to get their hands dirty and they're going to have hands-on vehicles. If you fit that criteria, I'm ready, willing, and able to hire you. And so it's, instead of just focusing on the career tech schools that are specific to the heavy duty industry, they're already beginning to look across and look. Automotive service has the vast majority of the transportation sector's students. There are simply just more programs. Collision would be second, and diesel would be a distant third. But the diesel industry has the smallest number of in terms of the technician shortage. And if the diesel industry joined forces, put all of their efforts together and said, look, we're going to go across all the career tech schools and recruit as many students as we possibly can. Diesel pays better right now. Like I said earlier, typically they're buying more of the tools or having more of the tools that you need as shop-owned tools rather than individual-owned tools. They typically have better benefits. But these are the kinds of things that aren't necessarily being promoted to automotive service students or collision students or welding students. And I truly believe that if the diesel industry put its efforts into recruiting across all of the industry segments, they can solve their problem. But that will, again, only exacerbate that problem for automotive service and collision.
And at the end of the day, it's all about the survival. So, I mean, it's not the nicest strategy to, like, basically we're telling people, look, if you're in heavy duty, you need to go raid the coffers of other industries. But at the end of the day, this has been going on for 20 years. The tech industry has been pulling away the youngest and brightest people from the last 2 generations, because that's where everybody wants to work, right? I mean, I remember when I was a kid and everybody wanted to code computer programs and build video games and and it's funny, I actually remember thinking as I was graduating high school and I got accepted to a few universities, and all my friends were going into the computer sciences, and I thought, everybody I know is doing this. I can't go in that industry because there's going to be a problem, right? There's going to be too many. The competition will be too high. So going back to my wife's cousin and her boyfriend, he just finished automotive, and the first thing I told him was, go add on heavy duty and join the heavy duty industry. And he thought a lot about it, and he's going to do it. And I've told several people that, young people, because you're right, the pay is better. The demand is high. The industry is relatively small, and once you get a good reputation, you're set for life. I mean, I know for me, getting into heavy duty parts saved my life, and that's a whole other story. But the salt of the earth people who stood by me and helped me through tough times as a youth, and then allowed me to kind of grow up and mature in the industry, and it has set the trajectory of my career and life. And I'll be in heavy duty till I'm done.
Well, I think that if my friends on the auto service and collision side heard this, they'd be like, Kyle, shut up, stop telling them that. But the reality is this is not new. This is nothing I'm saying is new. Diesel has been doing this to collision. Collision's been doing this to auto service. Auto service is doing this to collision. But I'll tell you what diesel should be scared of is oil and gas. Oil and gas is coming hard after diesel students, and they're coming in. They're trying, and and I don't know what pay varies by geography, but traditionally what we're seeing is diesel's offering about $6 an hour more than auto service and collision starting, not necessarily long term, but starting. And that means a lot when you're starting out. But oil and gas is coming in, and they're offering anywhere from $6 to $10 more than diesel is for the same students. So there's already a competition over for the next generation of these technicians. And yes, some of them, even many of them, will get into the industry and go, well, maybe I'm going to go work down at the Applebee's or the Chili's, or maybe I'm going to go stock shelves at Walmart. And that sucks to lose those kids because they put in the time and effort. But
Do
I
you
think it's a lot scarier to lose the kids as they're graduating, where they never even entered the industry because oil and gas got them.
Right. Do you think that those some of the statistics I've seen is that people entering heavy duty and diesel are around the age of 27? Do you think that there might be a bit of a boomerang effect with some of those kids who like opt for the 50-cent higher job, but then realize that they're never going to get another raise again? Do you think we can ever get any of them back?
Could we? Yes, but we don't track where they went. I mean, we might know. Oh well, I lost Johnny to Walmart, but then we stop tracking Johnny. Johnny's gone. It's almost like we treat them like, oh, they're dead to me. They left my business. They're dead to me. Where's Johnny in a year from now? Did Johnny move to it? We don't even know. We can't even tell that. I do think that one of the reasons that we see this older the age kind of jump up to that 27 range is because you have students who may have dropped out of high school or finished high school and not gone on to post-secondary education, and they went to work for Walmart, and I think that we'll see a lot of this happen because of COVID, where they lost their jobs. They were working in a restaurant or something, like lower skill jobs. They lose their job and they go, man, if I want to have a job, if I don't want to just have a job, I want to have a career. I need to get some skills. I'm going to go back to school. And that's when they end up going to a post-secondary program and learning, like American or ADTC. You talked about ADTC. They're like, oh man, I need to get some skills. ADTC has done a great job of finding people who are maybe looking for a restart to a career. And they're like, look, the diesel industry has a ton to offer you. Come to ADTC. We'll get you ready. We'll get you into the industry.
You've been watching the Heavy Duty Parts Report live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. We've been speaking with Kyle Holt, president and co-founder of SP2. To learn more, go to sp2.org. So Sam Peter, sp2.org. Links are in the show notes. Kyle, thanks so much for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jamie.
All right. Well, I am... See, this is the thing about being live. I'm really looking forward to us having an addition to our show every week with a producer, so I don't have to press all the buttons. But unfortunately, the tech just isn't there yet. So I try to be as smooth as possible, but sometimes things go wrong. Thanks again, Kyle. Appreciate being on the show. All right. So not the smoothest end to our conversation, but I did want to just mention that next week on the Heavy Duty Parts Report Live, we are going to talk about predictive maintenance and how to get ahead of a truck or trailer having a failure that causes unscheduled downtime. So tune in next week, Heavy Duty Parts Report Live on Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn, where we're going to tackle that subject. Have a great weekend.